Eles são escorregadios.
São mesmo.
Escalating conflicts, instead framing situations as everyone else turning against her. This mindset, they say, has created an echo chamber where only affirming voices are allowed access. Friends and relatives who express concern risk being cut off entirely. From a production standpoint, Season 8 represents a turning point for the series. Sources within the network say executives are paying close attention to how audiences respond to Amy's portrayal, particularly as sympathy shifts toward other family members. While the show has always thrived on raw emotion, there is a growing awareness that documenting decline without intervention raises ethical questions. According to one insider, there's a difference between showing struggle and watching someone spiral without support. Despite these concerns, cameras continue to roll, capturing moments that insiders describe as some of the most uncomfortable in the show's history. Conversations stall mid-sentence. Family gatherings feel tense rather than chaotic. Laughter is replaced by long silences. And through it all, Amy maintains that she is happier than ever. A claim that contrasts sharply with the mood surrounding her. As the season moves forward, sources warn that unresolved issues will not simply fade into the background. Amy's wedding plans, Tammy's independence, Brittany's surgical hopes, and Amanda's health realities are all converging toward moments of reckoning. The family is approaching a point where avoidance may no longer be an option. What emerges from part 2 of this unfolding story is a sobering realization. Amy Slaton's downfall is not being driven by a single dramatic event, but by a series of small refusals. Refusals to listen, to reflect, and to reconnect. And as those refusals accumulate, the distance between Amy and the people who once defined her world continues to grow. By the time 1000 LB Sisters Season 8 reaches deeper into its narrative, the question surrounding Amy Slaton is no longer whether she is struggling, but whether anyone can still reach her before the damage becomes irreversible. According to multiple insiders, the latter half of the season documents as a slow-moving emotional crisis that unfolds not through explosive confrontations, but through silence, distance, and missed chances for reconciliation. What makes this period especially disturbing is how normalized the dysfunction becomes, both within the family and in Amy's own self-perception. Sources close to production reveal that Amy's insistence on independence gradually transforms into something far more concerning: emotional isolation, disguised as empowerment. Conversations with family members become shorter, less frequent, and increasingly transactional. Amy reportedly limits her interactions to logistics rather than connection, a move insiders describe as cutting emotional cords while pretending they were never needed. While Amy continues to assert that she is finally prioritizing her happiness, those around her privately worry that she has mistaken avoidance for healing. As the season progresses, Amy's wedding, once presented as a hopeful new chapter, begins to cast a long shadow over her relationships. Insiders claim the event becomes a pressure point rather than a celebration, intensifying existing fractures instead of bringing people together. Family members reportedly feel as though they are walking on eggshells, unsure whether honest participation will be welcomed or punished. What should have been a unifying milestone instead highlights how conditional Amy's openness has become. Tammy Slaton's continued growth serves as an unspoken counter-narrative to Amy's decline. By embracing responsibility, employment prospects, and emotional accountability, Tammy inadvertently exposes the gaps in Amy's progress. Sources say Tammy becomes increasingly cautious around her sister, not out of resentment, but self-preservation. Having fought hard to escape her own destructive patterns, Tammy is reportedly unwilling to be pulled back into chaos, even if that chaos comes from family. Tammy's newfound stability shifts the emotional balance of the family in ways that are impossible to ignore. Where Amy once occupied the role of motivator and success story, she now appears defensive and resistant to feedback. Insiders describe moments where Tammy demonstrates empathy and restraint that Amy does not return, creating a painful reversal of roles. For longtime viewers and family members alike, this transformation is both inspiring and heartbreaking. Chris Slaton's exhaustion reaches a visible breaking point as the season advances. Sources say his attempts to mediate conflicts grow increasingly ineffective, and his frustration becomes harder to conceal. Balancing Brittany's ongoing health struggles with the emotional implosion of the family has reportedly left Chris questioning how much more he can shoulder. Several insiders describe him as carrying everyone else's weight while barely standing himself. Brittany's journey toward qualifying for weight loss surgery continues to test their marriage, with setbacks creating cycles of guilt and blame. While the show portrays determination, those close to the couple say the stress has reshaped their dynamic, forcing difficult conversations about responsibility, support, and limits. Chris, once the voice of optimism, appears increasingly realistic, aware that progress requires more than encouragement. It requires consistency that not everyone is willing to maintain. Amanda's health concerns escalate into a central emotional thread by the end of the season. Her transparency forces the family to confront uncomfortable truths about mortality, accountability, and what happens when denial runs out of time. Insiders say Amanda's willingness to speak plainly has made her both a source of strength and a target of resentment. For Amy, these conversations reportedly feel threatening, as they challenge her belief that disengagement is a viable long-term solution. Misty, often overlooked in earlier seasons, emerges as a quiet moral compass. Sources describe her as deeply troubled by the family's trajectory, particularly the erosion of genuine connection. She reportedly expresses fear that the siblings are drifting toward permanent estrangement, a concern that lingers heavily over the final episodes. Her reflections are less dramatic, but perhaps the most honest, a recognition that unresolved pain does not disappear simply because people stop talking about it. From a network perspective, Season 8 becomes a moment of reckoning. Insiders suggest that executives are acutely aware that the show has crossed into darker territory. While authenticity remains the cornerstone of the series, there is growing unease about documenting emotional decline without clear paths toward intervention. According to one production source, we're no longer just filming transformation, we're filming consequences. Amy's portrayal in the latter half of the season reflects this shift. The editing grows quieter, more observational, allowing viewers to draw their own conclusions. The absence of humor, once a defining trait of Amy's screen presence, is striking. Scenes linger on her detachment, her guarded responses, and the growing distance between her and the people who once formed her safety net. The message is subtle, but unmistakable. Something vital is slipping away. What ultimately defines Part 3 of this exclusive report is the sense of unresolved tension that follows the season's conclusion. There is no dramatic collapse, no singular moment of clarity, and no guaranteed redemption. Instead, there is uncertainty. Insiders describe an ending that feels unfinished, mirroring Amy's own emotional state. The family stands at a crossroads, aware that continued avoidance may lead to permanent loss. Amy Slaton's downfall, as documented in Season 8, is not a spectacle built on shock alone. It is a cautionary portrait of what happens when growth stalls, when accountability is rejected, and when independence is pursued at the cost of connection. The tragedy is not that Amy is struggling, but that she appears unwilling to acknowledge it, even as those around her change, heal, and move forward. As the season closes, one truth remains unavoidable. 1000 LB Sisters is no longer just a story about weight loss, it is a story about emotional survival, fractured bonds, and the quiet danger of mistaking distance for strength. And for Amy Slaton, the most critical chapter of her journey may still be unwritten. Depending on whether she chooses to turn back toward the family she is steadily leaving behind. Also has ethical obligations, says Dr. Lisa Montgomery, media ethics scholar. Networks can't ignore addiction or mental health struggles. Amy's ban could set a precedent for how networks balance storytelling with responsibility. Some analysts argue that the scandal exposes systemic pressures inherent in reality television. Cast members often live under constant public scrutiny, with network incentives that may conflict with personal well-being. Amy's case underscores the need for more robust support structures and proactive mental health interventions in the industry. Cultural impact and lessons learned. Beyond television, Amy Slaton's journey resonates on a cultural level. Addiction, relapse, and recovery are universal issues, and the highly public nature of her experience has sparked conversations about stigma, accountability, and support. Media commentator Angela DeMora reflects, "This is bigger than reality TV. Amy's story reminds us that relapse can happen to anyone. The difference is that hers is public, and it forces society to confront difficult questions about judgment, empathy, and second chances." Fan communities have mobilized to provide resources, share recovery advice, and support both Amy and others facing similar struggles. This grassroots response demonstrates the profound influence of reality television personalities on public discourse and mental health awareness. The next chapter for Amy Slaton. As part 3 of this series concludes, Amy stands at a pivotal crossroads. Her path forward is fraught with challenges, yet filled with potential. Sources close to her express cautious optimism. If she continues treatment, rebuilds her support system, and carefully manages public engagement, Amy could emerge stronger, with opportunities for both personal growth and professional resurgence. "This is a turning point," a close friend says. "Amy can either let this define her, or she can use it as a foundation for a new chapter, healthier, wiser, and more resilient." While TLC's doors may remain closed, the story of Amy Slaton is far from over. Fans, family, and the media continue to watch, waiting to see whether the reality star will reclaim her narrative and transform a public scandal into a story of recovery, redemption, and reinvention. The 1000 LB Sisters saga serves as a stark reminder of the pressures of fame, the complexities of addiction, and the human capacity for resilience. Amy Slaton's journey, from the highs of television success to the depths of personal crisis, offers lessons in empathy, accountability, and the power of second chances. As the world waits, one thing is clear: